piece from Allianz that showed making payments for just a short period of time, and when I'm going to use that later on to create an income starting at age 70. I think that is something that would be real powerful to people. I love the Roth alternative, kind of a Roth with benefits. I thought that was a great presentation. I love the indexing strategy that Columbus Life brought. Even the guy that is a wholesaler, we went to the baseball game last night with him, and he said, I love that indexing strategy. For you to be able to get the first 7%, then the next 5% goes to the company, and then uncapped above 12%. That is a phenomenal product. The other thing that is really attractive about that product is it allows you to have a product that not everybody's going to have. There are only 3,500 agents across the country that are licensed to sell that product. We are their largest distribution channel. So you get great product and a great price. The ability to shop different products and get cases underwritten. Hopefully you saw the leverage of Capmar and the ability to get products through the channels. The relationships that Terry has had is phenomenal. To be able to carry that forward and extend it to all of you, that is important. Today we're going to shift gears and we want to share some thoughts. This is going to be more interactive, so nobody's going to be able to take a little nap or anything. We're going to talk about several topics. We're going to talk about Social Security. We're going to talk about Medicare. We're going to talk about reverse mortgages. We're going to talk about nursing homes, and then we're going to talk about taxes. And the objective here is not to make you an expert on any of these subjects, but to know that you've got a resource to be able to help you answer those questions. If you've got questions about Social Security or any of these topics, reach out to us. We're here to help. We'll work with your professionals and be able to do that. I'm going to start out talking about Social Security. Let me get that other little piece off of there. It's a topic that I am very passionate about. For the last 7 years, I've really focused on helping people understand Social Security, what it means, and why does this thing keep doing this? What Social Security means to people, why it's important. Joe and I were talking just a minute ago about, well, the rules changed, so how do you use Social Security? Let me give you a little bit of facts. If you want to write some of these numbers down, I think it'll be helpful. There are 22,000 pages of rules in Social Security. It's not quite healthcare, but there's a ton of them. In the recent change, they affected 3 of them. Okay? So there's still a lot to do with Social Security. And actually, Rob and I were talking, I said Social Security got more complex when they took away file and suspend and restricted application. And the reason it got more complex is that everybody doesn't fall into the same category. Now, Social Security by itself is kind of the redheaded stepchild in retirement planning. Yeah. Yep. But I will tell you that Social Security is a greater opportunity now than it was before. Because everybody before that could do the file and suspend and show something real sexy and say, hey, look at this, you got another $200,000. File and suspend in its total cumulative thing was worth about $60,000 to people. So you lost a little piece of it, but there's still a great opportunity. But what it did was it weeded out all these people that were trying to give Social Security advice. They had the free software from T. Rowe Price. They had the free software from Allianz. Some people purchased it from different companies. And they would give advice not knowing really what they were talking about. Just file and suspend and restricted application. The higher earning person, files and suspends. The other one files the restricted application at full retirement age, and then at 70 both get the maximum benefit. That applied to 75% of the people. That's gone. And so now you're able to have a conversation. Social Security is still the largest single asset for people in retirement. 99% of people, Social Security will be that top asset. The challenge is none of them know that it's even there. They don't know how much it's worth. And so starting the conversation with an analysis of what Social Security can do for you, and we'll help you with that. If you need an analysis, give me a call. I'll run it for you. But really what we're talking about is helping the client understand how important Social Security is. Now, has anybody ever really made a lot of money selling Social Security analysis? I've tried. You lose your shirt. You know, at 50 bucks or whatever you're charging to do the analysis, it really isn't worth it. But it's an important thing. There's a huge financial planning company that's in Kansas City that lost a $10 million account, over $1 million worth of revenue to their thing, because they didn't tell their folks about Social Security. They didn't think it was important. And back when I used to travel teaching about Social Security, I was at an FPA event in Chicago, and this guy raised his hand. He goes, "I only work with high net worth folks, and Social Security is not important." I said, "Really?" I said, "So you only work with high net worth folks?" He goes, "Yeah, only high net worth folks." I said, "Okay, so let's assume they both waited till 70. And that's about $3,500 a month for each one of them. We're talking over $70,000 a year coming from just Social Security. High net worth, $200,000, $210,000 to make the math easy. That's a third of their incomes coming from Social Security. Are you sure it's not important to your client?" He said, "Let me rephrase that question. You know, I think it is important. I just didn't know." And that's symptomatic of what people think about Social Security. It's that they don't know how important it is. By quantifying Social Security, it does two things. One, it gives you a starting point to begin all your planning. You're going to see that Social Security, to your point on it was so great, a lot of bad advice was given on Social Security because of file and suspend. Because people that didn't have the resources were trying to wait to get more money out of Social Security, in the meantime depleting all their liquid assets. And so it becomes a starting point. And it would wind up leaving them in a really bad situation. A case, I worked with a nurse here in Raleigh. Came to me and said, "Will you do a Social Security analysis?" "Sure, I'll do a Social Security analysis for you." Go through the whole presentation. And I said, "You know, the good news is you should take Social Security early." She goes, "Oh, good. Why?" I said, "Well, because by taking it early, you only run out of money at 72. And she let it sink in for just a minute. She says, "What do you mean run out of money?" I said, "Well, if you waited and took it later and got the most out of Social Security, you run out of money at 69. Back up. Tell me about this running out of money piece. Well, really what we're talking about is how fast you have to draw down your other assets. And she goes, "Well, what can I do?" I said, "Well, you got two choices. The first one is you can reduce your budget." She goes, "I can't reduce my budget." The second is you can work longer. "I don't really want to do that." I said, "Okay, then you're going to run out of money. It's that simple. Choose one. All three are going to happen. Putting your head in the sand isn't going to solve this problem." She says, "Well, how much longer do I need to work?" So we started running it. You know, if she works 1 more year, 2 more years. If she worked to 65, which was 3 years longer, she was able to wait to take Social Security and never ran out of money. And she said to me, I remember, she said, "I hate you." She said, "But I am thankful." She said, "I would have really hated running out of money." And that's where Social Security becomes an important part of the plan. Without talking about Social Security, you never got to that conversation. Now, I don't manage assets. I don't do any of that stuff. So it was easy for me to hand it off to the advisor that she was working with and say, "Look, you've got a challenge here. You know, she's going to have to be very careful with how her money is, and it doesn't go backwards." Well, what does that sound like to y'all? If she needs income that can't go backwards, is she going to want to be in the stock market? No. She's got a need for guaranteed income that she's not going to run out of. What does that sound like? Do you see a product opportunity there? Yeah. And so now you've had the conversation about Social Security. She's already thinking about how long she has to work, how she needs to be careful about her money. If you're going to give product advice, you've just laid the table beautifully. Now, we've got the presentation we do on Social Security. It gives a lot of facts and figures about Social Security. But the reality is, once you have that analysis, you're really looking at when does the high earner need to start? When is the optimal time for the lower earner to start? And I will tell you now that the rules have changed. it's all over the board because there are 4 sets of variables that go into Social Security analysis. You've got somebody's date of birth, you've got their work history, you've got their marital status, and their mortality. And no 2 people are alike. Okay? Once all that information goes into an analysis and you get it out, I'll run a sample one and give everybody a handout at the break. But once they have that information, they can then see, okay, Social Security is worth $1 million to me. That's pretty good. I didn't know that. I'm going to feel better about the other advice that I'm going to get. And so when you've got all those 4 variables coming together, it's going to create a different strategy for every single person. So you telling him this is what you should ask, you better start thinking about, am I really giving good advice? The reality is that most people that get information about Social Security get it from their friends. So that leads into the second way that you leverage Social Security. You tell people, hey, we're bringing in an expert to talk about Social Security. You may have heard that Social Security has changed. And we want to help you, but we want to help more than just you. Chances are you vacation with somebody that's similar to you. You have bridge night, you play golf. You want them to have this information. So while we're hosting this event, we want you to consider bringing 2 of your friends that are couples. And we're going to talk. He's not going to sell any products. He's going to just simply talk about Social Security and why it's important. And from there, once we leave, we'll run an analysis for anybody you want an analysis run for. But we want to make sure that you have everything that you need to be able to communicate to them. We'll walk them through the reports. Does that make sense? Does Social Security feel like it's an important question? Let me go ahead and give you some other information that may be helpful. You're going to run into a lot of resistance about Social Security because there's a lot of bad information that's out there. Even yesterday during one of the presentations, it was all I could do to bite my tongue. Because Social Security, how many people realize that it actually has a $4.7 trillion surplus? Is it in the media anywhere? No. So Social Security, they talk about a lockbox. It's actually held in treasuries. Unless you think treasuries are, upside down, the money is there. They've technically loaned it to the government, but they did it through treasuries, the same way that an IBM or something like that might do. Okay? So the first hurdle is that Social Security is not broke. You need to communicate that. The second part is that we have problems. Starting in 2019, the surplus that will stop, and they will start tapping into that money. And if nothing's done by 2033, that surplus is going to be gone. And everybody thinks, well, if the surplus is gone, Social Security is bankrupt, right? The current people that are contributing to Social Security, if we have no growth in our economy, will provide 77 cents on the dollar. Okay? So if you're talking to somebody and say, it's very important that we optimize your benefits, because at the end of the day, would you rather have 3/4 of 3,000 or 3/4 of 2,000? That's your real question. Okay? So what other questions are you going to get? Oh, I hear Social Security is going to be means tested. Anybody ever hear that? It is very difficult to means test Social Security in the way that gets sometimes put up on Facebook. And just for your information, everything that's on Facebook is not true. I know it's hard to believe. Everything that's on the internet is not true. In fact, I had to bring it down. In one of my presentations, I used to have a statement by a so-called Social Security expert online. When he put his stuff up there, I went through and highlighted each comment that he made and showed where it was inaccurate. The only thing that on his whole post, and it was, a nice long letter, that was accurate was probably his name. Okay? And yet he's put himself out there as an expert. On the radio, on some of the financial shows, I'll hear people that come in and they're giving inaccurate information about Social Security. That does nobody good. I mean, their purpose is to scare people so they'll buy products. That's the wrong way to do it. It's to educate people, give them the facts so that they can feel comfortable. I mean, think about this from a psychological standpoint. If the largest asset you have for retirement and your advisor is telling you that it's not going to be there, so that they can sell something else. Is that really building a relationship? Hey, George, based on trust? No. And good advisors build on trust. And so by helping people understand how Social Security works, that'll be good. So how do we solve this? That becomes the next question. In 1983, we had the same problem that we've got right now. Social Security was getting ready to run out of money. What did they do in 1983? Does anybody got an idea what happened in 83? Nobody. What happened? No, they pushed the age back. There's a stress ball for you. Yeah, keep you unstressed. They moved the age from 65 to slowly to 67. Why did they do that? Well, people were living longer. We've got the exact same problem right now. People are living longer. The insurance companies, we talked about it yesterday, they're changing the mortality tables. They're going to one that's more current. Means insurance is going to be cheaper, but since people are living longer, that pension has to last a longer time. So they need to push that. This is my opinion. This is nothing more than that. I think they should push the age back to be more consistent with how long people are going to live. Now, they still could take it early if they want, but it's going to be a discount. The other thing that happened, he said, that so many people taking Social Security early is a drain. The government, make no bones about it, wants everybody to take the money early. They're taking a permanent 25% discount on their benefit for the rest of their life. I mean, when you run the analysis, it becomes real clear. So that's one. The second one is a relatively easy thing to do, is to take the cap off of highly compensated employees. There's very little pushback on it, but it's political. Last time they made this change, they didn't address it till 1982. They knew it was coming for 10 years. And so by people understanding that, they've dealt with this before, is putting their minds at ease so that, they can do this again. Now, we've got several more elections before it's a critical problem, so I don't expect it to get solved anytime soon. The next one is a more controversial one. That's adding a 1% tax that's split between the employer and the employee. For the average employee, it's about $40 a month. If you ask the employees, would you pay $40 for a secure Social Security? No problem. But again, it gets into the political part of taxes. When you start looking at real numbers, it's not such a big deal. And then the last thing is the means testing of Social Security. How are they going to means test it? Now, I've heard several pension attorneys talk about this, and they've all said basically the same thing. It will be very difficult for them not to pay you the benefit because you've contributed your own money into Social Security. But what they can do is tax the fool out of it. And so right now with the provisional income on Social Security, are y'all familiar with provisional income? Provisional income is basically how the Social Security is taxed. And so depending upon your modified adjusted gross income, which is half of your Social Security benefit plus all the modified adjusted gross income pieces, you add that up. If it's below 32, you don't pay any tax on your Social Security. 32 to 44, half of it is subject to income tax. And above 44, we're talking about 85% of it is subject to income tax. Now, with the new taxes, depends on what's going to happen with Trump. If he were to say 3 tax brackets, most people have said they expect that the taxes would fall in line with those. So, and it would go 0, 50, 100%. So, it is going to change. What's going to happen there, I don't know. The important thing is to help people feel comfortable about something that's going to be very important to them. One thing, my 18-year-old son, when he first got his paycheck, who in the world is FICA and why are they taking my money? People have put money into Social Security for a long time. They want something back. USA Today, about a year and a half ago, said this is the first generation that won't get their money back from Social Security. That's alarming until you read through the article and you found out the reason they were is that 75% of them were taking it before full retirement age. They were shooting themselves in the foot because they didn't know. And so the last thing before we go to the next presenter is leverage Social Security as a resource. Don't be afraid of it. but allow it to be the foundation that you're going to build the rest of your planning on. Once you have the facts, you can really help them make better decisions on how they're going to use their assets, how they're going to use things like the equity in their house, how they're going to have that conversation with their kids. We were talking about long-term care the other day, and you know, if it were me, I would have every single client that didn't buy long-term care sign a form saying that I at least discussed it with them. Not because I think it's a great sales thing. I think there's going to be lawyers out there that are going to come back on you. Yep. Exactly. And so when I was at the Retirement Income Summit, we think we've got a political divide. That's nothing compared to the divide on the Department of Labor rules. I mean, you've got one group that's on one side of the issue and the other on the other. The reality is, and this is what they said, is that we've got to come together and embrace both sides, because it's not all investment management and it's not all insurance. That a well put together retirement plan has to have both components in it. So, questions about Social Security? Yeah. Asset for 99% of Americans. Yep. Which isn't hard to believe when you look at the average American has less than $200,000 saved for retirement. That's not a high hurdle. But the understanding of Social Security, we just don't talk about Social Security. I mean, it's not that taboo of a subject. When I used to teach classes, and I'm trying to fill a little bit of time because I'm waiting for Nathan to show up. Is Nathan here? Okay. Okay. I thought he was. What's it say in the schedule there? Medicare, yeah. We'll flip. Ron's here. We'll let him go next if Nathan isn't. Lost my train of thought. 99% of people, this is their biggest asset. Yeah. I know what it was. Up at the Retirement Income Summit, they were talking about the things that are important to people. And number one, I bet y'all can guess. What's the number one fear people have? Running out of money. Number two was security. They want to feel secure in their retirement. And they had a lot of people that discussed everything from the reverse mortgages, how you stress test your portfolio. And we were having a conversation out in the hall. If you're having to explain to your client how stress testing is going to make them feel more comfortable, you're not going to change their stress level, because they aren't going to understand how complicated stress testing is. But if you tell them that the income for what they need to cover is guaranteed, then you're going to have a much more comfortable client. And they will be more likely to refer you to others, because you've solved the need and they can go play bridge or whatever, not looking at their statement every single time. Having said that, it is not an either or, it's a both and. And so solving for their fixed expenses with guaranteed products goes a long way. And that's what a lot of stuff we talked about the other day was. But then managing the other resources to their maximum potential, that's where you come in. And everybody is going to be different. You're going to find the guy that manages money thinks that's the best way. The guy that manages it with an indexed annuity, the guy that manages it with a life insurance. When you're talking about the discretionary income and they've got to put off buying a car for a year, that's not a real big deal. When they can't pay their electrical bill because the market went down, that's a big deal, okay? So that's what we want to do. Other questions about Social Security? Anything I didn't go over that you just got questions about? Mm-hmm. So it depends on what you want done. I've got access to several software that I can use and help you run the analysis. The reality is to have a baseline that you can build from. You can then dump it into Naviplan, eMoney, Money Guide Pro. Most of those, they've got basic software for Social Security. There are basically 3 companies out there that are pretty comprehensive. You have Maximize My Social Security, you have Social Security Solutions, and Social Security Timing. Each one has their own little flaws. When I think of, and we're being recorded, so I'm not going to go into those. Just want to think that. If you want to know the difference between them, reach out to me individually. I can give you the pros and cons of each one of them. But once you have that information, it's real simple calculation. I use just a spreadsheet to show the effects of a 4% growth, just to snapshot, take a look at what it, is it going to run out of money? Are they one strategy versus the other? You can throw it in a nice complicated software and do the same thing. I really just want to get the concept across to clients, and then as you build out the plan to go into the details. A client doesn't want to look at a book like that. They want to know, oh, I run out at 78, I run out at 82, or I don't run out. That's the best of all worlds. Does that answer your question? Okay. Yep. Yep. Most people do. And that's another one of those things that gets perpetrated out there. When you look at the money you put in your employers, if you live to 81, actually you made about 1% on your money. Those that die early, it's just like anything else. They offset it. And it really depends on how long you're going to live. College degree, if you had a college degree, it adds about 10 years to your life expectancy versus somebody that's a blue-collar job. Longevity is the big question. And if everybody in your family's dropped dead in the 70s, you probably want to take Social Security early, unless your wife's family has had everybody live to their 90s. And that's where, you've got to know the whole piece of the puzzle. If you've got folks that you're struggling with this and you want to have the conversation, that's what I'm here for. I'll walk them through any of that. So. Yeah, 118.5, I think. I've got it on my laptop. Ah, okay. But those are the types of things that are going to change. If you've got questions, if you're affiliated with Capmar, give me a call. I do this every single day. I get questions about it. It may be a simple question that I can answer. It may be complex, but that's what I like to do. If I don't know the answer, I know where to go get it. I will definitely research stuff and know how to use that PALMS manual. Yep. Yep. Well, 66 is a tricky one. Yeah. So the year you turn 66, before you turn 66, you can earn $33,000 or something like that. But then in unlimited after you turn, so it's going to depend on whether you turn 66 in January or you turn 66 in December. And that's one of the differences between the way those softwares calculate benefits. So, but having the numbers makes a big difference. If you want one run on you, we'll do that. It doesn't take long. So I saw Nathan sneak in the back, but Ron, are you ready to go?